What happens when science fiction stops behaving and walks straight into adults-only territory? Some of these movies carried an official X certificate, some were cut to escape one, and others went unrated because no studio wanted the fight. Critics called them tasteless, dangerous, or simply bizarre. Midnight audiences saw something else. Fearless ideas, unforgettable images, and future nightmares that ordinary Hollywood would never dare to make. Before we enter these forbidden futures, like this video, share it with another cult film fan, and subscribe to the channel. Number 23. X. The Unknown. 1956. Long before body horror covered screens and effects, a patch of Scottish mud became one of Hammer's strangest monsters. Soldiers conducting radiation exercises open a deep crack in the earth, and something ancient rises toward the surface. It has no human face, no clear shape, and no interest in negotiation. The creature is living radioactive force, feeding on energy and leaving scorched victims behind. The famous sequence arrives when the glowing mass enters a hospital in search of radioactive material. Doors offer no protection, equipment fails, and the staff can only watch the impossible thing move closer. By current standards, the effects look simple, but the idea remains disturbing because the monster cannot be reasoned with. It behaves like hunger made physical. That grim mood helped the film survive beyond its B-movie origins. What once looked like a cheap atomic age warning now feels like a Cold War nightmare about science digging into places it does not understand. The title promised the unknown, and the movie wisely never explains too much. Number 22. Fiend Without a Face. 1958. Strange deaths occur near an American military base in Canada, where radar equipment is drawing enormous amounts of atomic power. Major Cummings investigates, while a scientist named Professor Walgate hides a secret. His experiments with thought projection have created independent creatures made from mental energy. The film's most famous surprise comes late, when increased radiation makes the invisible monsters visible. They appear as crawling brains with spinal tails, dragging themselves through windows and wrapping around their victims. The stop-motion creatures look handmade, yet their wet movement and pulsing sound make the attack strangely memorable. A quiet mystery suddenly becomes a siege movie filled with nightmare biology. Audiences expecting polite 1950s science fiction were shocked by the finale's graphic detail. That intensity gave the film a second life on late-night television, repertory screens, and collector releases. Beneath the creature spectacle is a sharp warning. Technology does not create evil by itself, but human ambition can give dangerous thoughts a body. Few films have taken the phrase, "a bad idea," so literally. If forgotten science fiction deserves a second life, help this video reach the right audience by liking and sharing it now. And subscribe before the countdown gets stranger, because the most controversial titles are still ahead. Number 21. The Quatermass Experiment, 1955. A British rocket returns from space carrying only one conscious astronaut, Victor Carroon. The other crew members have vanished, but their empty suits remain sealed inside the craft. Professor Bernard Quatermass refuses to accept official caution and removes Victor for examination. That decision unleashes a slow transformation, more frightening than any ordinary alien invasion. Victor begins losing his human identity as an extraterrestrial organism spreads through his body. He wanders through streets and industrial spaces like a sick man trying to outrun himself. The most famous images show his damaged arm becoming plant-like and unnatural, while his frightened face still suggests a person trapped inside. The climax moves to Westminster Abbey, where the creature has grown into a pulsing mass, capable of releasing spores across the world. Instead of heroic space adventure, the film turns exploration into contamination. Its harsh tone helped establish Hammer's new direction, and the deliberate X in the title advertised danger. Decades later, the movie still feels serious, lonely, and unusually cruel toward its doomed astronaut. Number 20. Village of the Damned. 1960. One ordinary morning, everyone in the English village of Midwich suddenly collapses. Cars stop, telephones go unanswered, and even animals fall unconscious inside an invisible boundary. The real shock arrives weeks afterward, when every woman capable of having a child discovers she is expecting one. The children grow rapidly, share the same pale appearance, and communicate as a group. Their glowing eyes become the movie's unforgettable visual, but their calm voices are even more unsettling. They simply enter another person's mind and force that person to obey. The famous final scene follows scientist Gordon Zellaby as he carries a hidden explosive device into their classroom. To prevent the children from reading his thoughts, he imagines a solid brick wall. As they mentally break through it, cracks appear in his imagined defense until the truth is exposed. Its original adult certificate now seems surprising, yet the themes remain severe: unexplained pregnancy, loss of control, and children treated as a possible new species. That cold intelligence made it a lasting cult classic. Number 19. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. David Bowie appears perfectly cast as Thomas Jerome Newton, an alien who arrives in New Mexico searching for water to save his dying planet. He uses advanced inventions to build an enormous technology company, hoping the profits will finance a spacecraft home. Then Earth's pleasures, corporations, government attention, and human weakness begin pulling him apart. Time slips, relationships decay, and Newton becomes trapped in luxury while his original purpose fades. One famous scene reveals his true form to Mary Lou. He removes the human disguise, exposing an unfamiliar body with orange hair, pale skin, and strange eyes. Television screens play endlessly, alcohol becomes a prison, and wealth offers Newton everything except freedom. The mature material was controversial, but it also prevents the alien story from becoming sentimental. What made the film confusing to some early viewers later made it irresistible to cult audiences. It behaves like memory rather than plot, and Bowie's distant performance turns an extraterrestrial visitor into a tragic celebrity who can be seen everywhere but understood by nobody. Number 18. Inseminoid, 1981. A research team explores ancient ruins on a distant planet, believing they have found evidence of a lost civilization. Their underground base is already tense, but the discovery of unusual crystals and alien machinery turns curiosity into disaster. After contact with an unknown life form, crew member Sandy begins changing physically and mentally, becoming a threat to everyone around her. The movie clearly borrowed the isolated space terror formula popular at the time, yet its British production gives everything a colder, grimier appearance. Corridors feel narrow, equipment looks overused, and the characters never seem protected by technology. The most remembered scenes involve Sandy stalking the base while the surviving researchers attempt to understand what has happened to her. Its adult rating came from a mixture of disturbing transformation, violent detail, and mature implications that were unusual for commercial science fiction. The result is not elegant, yet it commits completely to its nightmare. That commitment helped Inseminoid become the kind of rough-edged cult film viewers defend, precisely because respectable cinema would never make it. Number 17. Contamination, 1980. A deserted ship drifts into New York Harbor carrying green, pulsing eggs. When investigators approach them, the pods explode and release a substance that causes horrifying internal reactions. Colonel Stella Holmes follows the trail from Manhattan warehouses to South America, where the conspiracy leads toward a former space mission and a giant alien creature hidden underground. Bodies are discovered aboard the ship, the eggs begin vibrating, and trained officials realize too late that curiosity has brought them within range. Luigi Cozzi stretches a simple alien invasion idea into an international thriller involving smugglers, mind control, and government secrecy. Its famous final creature is a huge one-eyed monster controlling human agents from a cave. The effect is bulky and clearly mechanical, but the unnatural movement gives it the charm of a nightmare built in a workshop. Contamination was condemned in several markets for its graphic effects and became linked with the era's censorship battles. That reputation guaranteed its survival. It is messy, excessive, and completely sincere, the perfect recipe for cult immortality. Number 16. Extro, 1982. 3 years after Sam is suddenly taken by a strange light, he returns to his family with no believable explanation. His wife has begun a new relationship, his young son barely remembers him, and something about Sam is clearly no longer human. The best-known early sequence shows an alien creature arriving on Earth and beginning a grotesque process that eventually restores Sam's adult body. A toy soldier becomes real, a clown appears where no clown should be, and the family home turns into hostile territory. Its London settings are ordinary, which makes the surreal intrusions feel more aggressive. The movie also refuses a comforting emotional reunion. Sam's return does not heal the family, it infects it. That mixture of family drama, alien horror, and dream logic confused reviewers but attracted devoted viewers. Every few minutes, the film offers an image that seems impossible to forget. It became a cult classic because it feels less like a story someone wrote and more like a forbidden broadcast accidentally captured from another dimension. Number 15. Class of 1999-1990. In a near future where urban schools have become battle zones, the government introduces a radical solution: robotic teachers disguised as humans. Kennedy High sits inside a lawless area controlled by rival gangs, so 3 military androids enter the classrooms with orders to restore discipline. Their methods quickly move from strict education to open warfare. The plot follows Cody, a former gang member trying to avoid trouble, and Dr. Bob Forrest, the designer who believes his machines can be controlled. They cannot. One memorable scene reveals the machines beneath their human appearances. Damaged faces split open to expose metal, weapons, and mechanical eyes. Pam Grier, Patrick Kilpatrick, and John P. Ryan play the android faculty with exaggerated authority, making every calm instruction sound like a threat. Its exaggerated future now looks like a comic book warning about surveillance, militarized education, and institutions solving social problems with machinery. Cult audiences recognize that beneath the loud action was a nasty satirical idea. When schools are treated like prisons, teachers can easily become guards. Number 14. Hardware, 1990. A scavenger finds a damaged robot head in a radioactive desert and sells it to soldier Moses Baxter. Thinking it is harmless scrap, Moses gives the object to his artist girlfriend Jill, who places it inside a sculpture in her apartment. It is the MARK-13, a military machine designed to rebuild itself and eliminate human targets. Once it activates, the apartment becomes a trap. The famous red-lit scenes make the robot look less like technology and more like a metal demon moving through smoke. Richard Stanley surrounds the attack with pirate radio, industrial music, polluted skies, and political broadcasts about population control. The future feels exhausted, as though civilization has already accepted collapse. Hardware was restricted in some territories and difficult to find for years, strengthening its reputation through traded copies and enthusiasm. Today it stands as a cyberpunk cult film, low budget, angry, claustrophobic, and suspicious of every machine sold as progress. The killer robot is frightening, but the government that built it remains the monster. Number 13. Society, 1989. Billy Whitney lives in Beverly Hills, surrounded by wealth, popularity, and a family that appears respectable. Yet he feels like an outsider inside his own home. Conversations stop when he enters rooms, photographs seem wrong, and a secret recording suggests his parents and their friends are involved in something beyond ordinary corruption. For most of the film, director Brian Yuzna builds paranoia slowly. Billy wonders whether he is imagining everything, while adults dismiss his fears as teenage instability. The wealthy are not merely selfish people. They are a separate species capable of melting together in a ritual called the shunt. That climax became the movie's legendary scene. Bodies stretch, faces move to impossible places, and the guests absorb their victim while laughing about social superiority. Special effects artist Screaming Mad George turns class privilege into a physical monster. The sequence is outrageous, but the satire is simple. The rich do not just control the lower classes, they consume them. Society struggled to find a normal audience because it spends an hour resembling a teen mystery before exploding into surreal body horror. Midnight viewers understood the design. The slow beginning makes the ending feel even more forbidden. Its adult material and bizarre transformations once limited its reach, yet the same qualities made it impossible to forget. Few cult films deliver a final act so completely unlike anything promised by their opening scenes. Number 12. Brain Damage, 1988. Brian wakes in his New York apartment with a smooth, cheerful parasite attached to him. The creature calls itself Aylmer and speaks in the polite voice of an old entertainer. It offers Brian a glowing substance that creates beautiful hallucinations. In return, Brian must carry Aylmer through the city and allow it to feed. Frank Henenlotter turns this ridiculous arrangement into a dark story about addiction. Brian knows the bargain is destroying him, but the visions make ordinary life feel unbearable. Aylmer remains friendly, even while controlling every decision, which makes the creature more disturbing than a roaring monster. The withdrawal scene is the film's most famous stretch. Locked inside a cheap room, Brian sweats and shakes, while Aylmer sings from the sink, calmly waiting for him to surrender. Later, a subway encounter links the movie to Henenlotter's earlier cult favorite Basket Case, rewarding viewers familiar with his strange New York universe. The adult rating and censored imagery kept Brain Damage away from mainstream screens, but home video audiences discovered its mixture of comedy, horror, and social commentary. The practical effects are deliberately excessive, Yet the emotional idea remains serious. Aylmer does not force Brian at every moment. It makes him want the chain. That is why the film outlived countless cleaner monster movies. Behind the jokes is a precise warning about any pleasure that slowly begins making choices for you. Number 11. Shivers, 1975. Inside a modern luxury apartment complex, a scientist creates a parasite intended to replace failing human organs. Instead, the organism spreads from resident to resident, removing social restraint and turning the building into a sealed laboratory of uncontrollable desire. Dr. Roger St. Luke tries to contain the outbreak, but each hallway introduces another infected neighbor. David Cronenberg's first major feature treats the apartment tower as a miniature civilization. That self-contained design becomes the reason the infection spreads so efficiently. The residents do not need to leave, and the parasite does not need to escape until everyone inside has changed. The bathtub sequence remains the film's most famous scare. A woman relaxes alone, while the parasite moves unseen through the plumbing and rises toward her. The scene begins like familiar suspense, then becomes something much stranger and more provocative. Another unforgettable moment shows the infected residents gathering in the swimming pool as the last resistance collapses. American distributors threatened the film with an X rating, and controversy erupted in Canada over public funding. Those attacks made Shivers notorious, but its ideas gave it lasting power. It is not simply about infection. It asks whether civilization suppresses impulses that biology will eventually reclaim. Cult audiences kept returning because the movie never provides a comfortable moral answer. The parasite is horrifying, yet Cronenberg films the final transformation like a new society being born. Number 10. Rabid, 1977. After a motorcycle accident, Rose receives experimental tissue treatment at a private clinic. The procedure saves her life, but creates a new organ beneath her arm. She develops an uncontrollable need to feed, and the people she attacks become carriers of a violent, rabies-like infection spreading across Montreal. She is not a villain planning an epidemic. She is a frightened patient who gradually understands that every attempt to survive harms someone else. Her victims return to public spaces, where sudden attacks turn restaurants, streets, and trains into scenes of panic. One of the most remembered sequences takes place on the subway. An infected passenger changes without warning, and ordinary commuters become trapped in a moving carriage. Cronenberg repeatedly uses familiar city locations, making the outbreak feel closer than a remote laboratory disaster. Government forces respond with checkpoints, protective suits, and garbage trucks collecting the dead, but organization never quite catches up with biology. The film's mature imagery and casting made it controversial, yet those surface details distracted from its larger fear. Modern medicine creates a problem that public authority can only answer with force. Rabid built a loyal following because it combines personal tragedy with epidemic scale. Rose's final decision is especially cruel, as she tests whether love can overcome infection and receives the bleakest possible answer. The cult reputation grew because the ending refuses rescue, cure, or comforting explanation. Number 9. Scanners, 1981. Certain people can read thoughts, control nervous systems, and attack through the mind. A private security corporation called CONSEC wants to weaponize these individuals, known as scanners. Dr. Paul Ruth recruits the unstable Cameron Vale to stop Daryl Revok, a powerful scanner building an underground army. The story plays like a conspiracy thriller, but the psychic battles turn invisible power into physical pain. He does not need a weapon. Concentration is enough. The famous demonstration scene arrives near the beginning. A volunteer scanner attempts to read Revok before an audience. Revok smiles, takes control, and the man's head suddenly bursts apart. The effect became one of the most replayed moments in cult cinema, yet its placement is important. By showing overwhelming power so early, Cronenberg makes every later conversation feel potentially lethal. The finale brings Vale and Revok face to face in a psychic duel. Veins rise, skin burns, and the room becomes a battlefield without conventional movement. Beneath the spectacle is a story about corporations manufacturing human difference and then trying to own it. Scanners pushed Cronenberg toward a wider audience while preserving his obsession with technology, medicine, and rebellious bodies. Its adult certificate, shocking effects, and strange performances once divided critics. Home video transformed those weaknesses into attractions. Viewers came for the famous scene, then discovered a paranoid science fiction world where thought itself has become an industrial resource. Number 8. Liquid Sky, 1982. Tiny aliens land above a Manhattan apartment searching for a chemical produced by intense human pleasure. Below them, fashion model Margaret moves through a post-punk world of clubs, performance art, drugs, jealousy, and people who treat identity like another costume. The aliens begin removing those who approach her, leaving behind strange crystals and unanswered disappearances. Nothing in Liquid Sky behaves like conventional science fiction. The spacecraft resembles a toy, the electronic score repeats like a malfunctioning machine, and the dialogue swings between comedy and cruelty. Anne Carlisle plays both Margaret and her rival Jimmy, turning gender, desire, and performance into part of the film's alien logic. The best-known scenes take place beneath neon makeup and harsh club lighting. Margaret realizes that the people exploiting her are vanishing, and she begins using the mysterious force around her as protection. The story becomes revenge fantasy, art project, and extraterrestrial mystery at the same time. Its adults-only reputation came from mature themes, more than expensive spectacle. Mainstream reviewers often saw only ugliness or confusion, but midnight audiences recognized a complete underground world captured before it disappeared. Liquid Sky became a cult classic, because its limitations became its style. The synthetic music, stiff performances, and painted faces all suggest humans already behaving like aliens. Instead of visitors invading New York, the film implies they have found a city strange enough to feel like home. Number 7. Tetsuo, the Iron Man, 1989. A Tokyo salaryman wakes to discover metal forcing its way through his body. Wires, pipes, and machinery appear beneath his skin, transforming ordinary life into a violent collision between flesh and technology. A metal-obsessed stranger seems connected to the change, and their conflict drives both men toward a final mechanical union. Shinya Tsukamoto shoots the film in black and white, with frantic editing, stop-motion movement, and industrial noise. Trains, drills, factories, and office routines become part of the same unstoppable transformation. The famous chase sequence moves at impossible speed through streets and tunnels, with characters sliding through frames like broken animation. Later scenes turn the body into machinery so aggressively that the film feels less watched than endured. Yet the visual attack has a clear idea beneath it. Modern technology is no longer something people use. It has entered the body and rewritten desire. Tetsuo circulated internationally, through festivals, tapes, and late-night screenings. Its mature imagery and confrontational style prevented normal commercial success, but cult viewers treated that rejection as proof of authenticity. The movie lasts barely more than an hour, yet its influence stretches across cyberpunk, music video, body horror, and independent cinema. It became a classic because no larger production could reproduce its handmade madness. Every frame appears powered by obsession, and the final promise to turn the entire world into metal feels both ridiculous and strangely inevitable. Number 6. From Beyond, 1986. Scientist Crawford Tillinghast helps Dr. Edward Pretorius build the resonator, a machine that stimulates the pineal gland and allows humans to see creatures occupying another dimension. The discovery works, but the creatures can also see them. Pretorius disappears, Crawford is blamed, and psychiatrist Catherine McMichaels returns to the laboratory hoping to prove his story. Stuart Gordon uses the machine as permission to transform the room every time it activates. Purple light floods the walls, floating predators move through the air, and human behavior becomes increasingly unstable. Pretorius returns as a shape-changing being who claims ordinary reality is only the beginning. The most memorable scenes show Barbara Crampton's Catherine changing from controlled scientist to someone influenced by the resonator's effects. Ken Foree's police officer becomes the practical voice trapped between two obsessed researchers. Cuts were made for several releases, and the film's mixture of mature material and body horror limited its reach. That only strengthened its home video following. Fans recognized that From Beyond was more than a monster movie. Humanity survives because it cannot see everything surrounding it. The practical effects remain wonderfully excessive, but the concept gives them purpose. Each new creature suggests another layer of existence waiting behind the visible world. The film became a cult classic because it offers the forbidden promise every reckless scientist wants to hear. The machine works perfectly. The problem is what it reveals. Number 5. The Toxic Avenger, 1984. Melvin is a painfully awkward cleaner at a health club in Tromaville, a town where corruption is treated like normal weather. Cruel customers humiliate him with a prank, and he falls from an upper window into toxic waste. The accident transforms him into a huge, damaged-looking hero with superhuman strength and an immediate hatred of wrongdoing. Toxie protects the innocent, falls in love with the blind Sarah, and targets criminals ignored by the town's corrupt leaders. His methods are far beyond anything a respectable comic book studio would allow, but the exaggerated violence is presented as part of Tromaville's absurd moral universe. The restaurant confrontation became one of the movie's signature scenes. Armed criminals terrorize customers until Toxie arrives and turns the situation into chaotic punishment. Another memorable moment shows him confronting the mayor, whose polished public image hides control of the town's criminal network. The original release struggled, then midnight screenings in video stores transformed the film into Troma's defining hit. Its adult content, cheap effects, and aggressive jokes seemed designed to prevent mainstream respect. Instead, those qualities created a loyal community. The Toxic Avenger became a franchise, cartoon, comic, musical, and symbol of independent cinema surviving without permission. Its science fiction premise is simple. Chemicals create a mutant, but the cult appeal comes from its rebellious spirit. In Tromaville, ugliness becomes heroic, and respectability becomes the disguise worn by evil. Number 4. Reanimator, 1985. Medical student Herbert West arrives at Miskatonic University carrying a glowing green reagent, capable of restoring life to dead tissue. Their experiments move into the morgue, where success creates violent, confused bodies rather than grateful patients. Jeffrey Combs plays West with absolute certainty. He rarely appears frightened by consequences because each disaster is merely another result to study. Bruce Abbott's Dan provides the human weakness, repeatedly objecting before following West into the next experiment. The morgue sequence established the film's reputation. West injects a corpse. The body returns with uncontrollable strength, and the room becomes a battle among scientists, security, and the newly revived. Later, Dr. Carl Hill continues plotting after separation from his body, creating the movie's most outrageous image and darkest joke. The producers released Reanimator unrated because they expected an X from the American Rating Board. Audiences discovered it through reviews, midnight shows, and video shelves, where the unrated label became an invitation. The film works because it moves quickly, treats impossible science seriously, and never apologizes for its excess. Beneath the comedy is a classic question. If death can be reversed, does that make the inventor a savior, or simply the first person reckless enough to open the door? Reanimator became a cult classic because Herbert West never stops long enough to consider the answer, and the audience can barely stop laughing long enough to breathe. Number 3. Flesh Gordon, 1974. A mysterious ray strikes Earth and sends the population into uncontrollable excitement. Scientist Dr. Flexi Jerkoff, heroic Flesh Gordon, and Dale Ardor travel into space to stop Emperor Wang, ruler of a distant planet and owner of the dangerous device. Their mission leads through cheaply magnificent sets, stop-motion creatures, and jokes that refuse every limit of good taste. The film began as an adults-only parody of the old Flash Gordon serials, but its creators invested surprising effort in the science fiction world. Miniatures explode, spacecraft cross-painted skies, and handcrafted monsters appear, with the confidence of a production that believes a ridiculous idea deserves real craftsmanship. The most famous creature is a giant stop-motion monster that enters the finale like a rude cousin of Ray Harryhausen's creations. Its gestures and dialogue destroy any remaining seriousness, yet the animation itself shows genuine skill. Another memorable sequence features Emperor Wang presenting his bizarre court while Flesh prepares for a rescue that becomes less heroic every minute. An X-rated version played commercially before a shortened R-rated cut attempted to reach wider audiences. The rating controversy and outrageous title guaranteed attention, but the visual effects helped the film endure. That contradiction gives the movie warmth beneath the vulgar comedy. It is an adults-only joke built by people who clearly loved spaceships, monsters, and the childish promise that one brave fool could save the entire planet. Number 2. Videodrome, 1983. Max Wren runs a small Toronto television station searching for programming that will shock bored viewers. His technician discovers a pirate broadcast called Videodrome, apparently showing real punishment inside a bare room. Instead, investigating the signal pulls him into a conspiracy involving brain tumors, hallucination, political control, and technology that changes the body. In the film's most famous image, a set breathes and stretches while Max presses his face against it. Later, an opening appears in his abdomen like a living videotape machine. People insert cassettes and weapons into his body, turning media influence into physical programming. Debbie Harry's Nikki Brand is attracted to danger and disappears after pursuing the Videodrome experience. Brian Oblivion, a media prophet who appears only on screens, explains that television has become part of human reality. Max cannot determine whether he is uncovering the conspiracy or performing commands planted inside him. The film received an R rating, but censorship concerns and its mature imagery placed it beside the era's adults-only controversies. Its initial commercial failure made the later cult victory even more remarkable. Home video was the perfect format for a movie warning that video would reshape identity. Videodrome now feels less like prediction than diagnosis. Social media, violent clips, personalized feeds, and online personas all echo its central fear. The screen does not merely show us images, it trains us to become new people. Number 1. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. Near-future Britain has become a bright, decaying playground for Alex Delarge, a young gang leader who loves Beethoven, power, and cruelty. After his friends betray him, Alex enters prison and accepts an experimental government treatment, promising early release. The Ludovico technique forces him to watch disturbing images while medication makes him violently ill, conditioning his body to reject aggression. The film's most famous sequence shows Alex strapped into a chair with his eyes held open, as films play before him. Doctors describe the procedure as progress, but the image makes rehabilitation look like another form of punishment. When Beethoven's Ninth Symphony accompanies the material, Alex realizes the state has also destroyed his ability to enjoy the music he loves. Alex is dangerous, but politicians use him for publicity. Reformers defend his freedom while ignoring his victims. The treatment removes his choices without creating goodness. It produces obedience, not conscience. A Clockwork Orange originally received an X rating in the United States and passed uncut with an X certificate in Britain. Its cult status grew because every generation discovers a new argument inside it. Is free will more important than public safety? Can a violent person be made good by force? Does the government oppose cruelty, or simply demand control of it? More than 50 years later, the film remains provocative because it offers no clean hero and no comfortable answer. These 25 films crossed lines, challenged censors, confused critics, and still found audiences willing to defend them. Some now look shocking, while others reveal how much ratings have changed. But each one proved that cult cinema survives through imagination, not approval. Tell us which forbidden future deserves the top spot, and name the movie we missed. Like, share, subscribe, and return for another journey into the film's mainstream history tried to leave behind.